afternoon. Thank you for giving me the opportunity that you've given to me, a Venezuelan mother. It is a bitter and satisfactory experience. It is bitter because I am here because of the tragedy of losing my child. It is satisfactory because I can tell you about the attack on human rights that we are grappling with in Venezuela today, thanks to world organizations and leaders. The victims who, due to the lack of the rule of law, are ignored in Venezuela are being heard here today. So I speak in the name of more than 300 victims who have been murdered since 2014. As a result of a pattern of attacks that is systematic and generalized against those who clamor for justice, liberty, and democracy. I am Rosa Orozco, the mother of Geraldine Moreno, a student of cytotechnology who was murdered at 23 years old. She was a top-class athlete and a passionate soccer fan. She was my treasure and my companion. We went to all the peaceful rallies. So we could exercise our human rights. On February 19th, 2014, my heart and my soul was snatched away. And that day I told her that we shouldn't go out because since February 12th, we had been avoiding the crisis that today has turned into a humanitarian emergency of hunger, repression, death, and more than 5 million migrants. On that day, she was playing on the football field of my housing project. And at about 8 p.m., she said, let's go out in front of the building and watch the neighbors who are demonstrating. She went out first. 10 minutes later, I heard 5 shots. I ran. I saw my daughter lying in a pool of blood, screaming because of the pain in her face and her legs. I thought that my daughter had only been shot in the face because she was still talking to me. So I said to her, they're going to take you to intensive care because you've been hit. God bless you. It will all work out. That was the last time I spoke with her. She fought for her life for 3 days. The doctors told me to have faith, but it wasn't enough. She died due to complications on February 22nd at 12:35 a.m. On February 19th, Unit 24 of the National Guard had come into the housing development where I live. There were 13 motorized guards under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Frank Osuna, and they arrived shooting at the neighbors who were only holding pots and whistles and flags. Geraldine ran, and the guard, Francisco Caridad Barroso, shot at her body. She fell. And then another guard, Alvin Bonilla, shot her in the face. And not happy with that, he got off the motorcycle and shot again at her point blank. Our cries for mercy were useless. The guard embedded a cartridge in my daughter's right eye, and she lost 90% of her brain mass, and the behavior of the National Guard was an atrocity. If you had only seen my daughter's face, you would understand. In 5 days, it will be 6 years since Geraldine was extrajudicially executed, and only 2 soldiers out of the 24 participants have been brought to trial. And this is my double tragedy, to lose a daughter and to have to put up with the absence of justice. I have tirelessly denounced the complicity of all the National Guards and the command line. I will continue to denounce this till all the blood has drained from my body. But but my daughter won't come back, and every day I have to face this fact, but I demand that there be no more extrajudicial executions in my country, no more impunity, justice for my case and for all. With the existing impunity, I'm demanding justice from the international community. I condemn the 324 murders of Venezuela since 2014 because they disagreed with the illegitimate government of Nicolas Maduro, because they demanded political transition, or simply because they went to the streets to protest, calling for basic services, like the case of Rufo Chacon, who was blinded for protesting with his mother of a lack of gas. During the protests of 2019, an armed group of the national police in Bolivia identified the protesters and then went to their homes and murdered them next to their families and friends. There were human rights groups outside of Venezuela accused them of 18,000 murders for different motives. Even the High Commissioner for Human Rights of the UN recommended that this group cease its work, but that because their work was more extermination than anything else. But Maduro and those with him in his regime supports the group. I cannot help but talk about the Dantes types of inhuman treatment for political prisoners. People have lost their eyes, they've been becoming chronically ill, they've died, like Council Fernan Alvan, capital Acosta Arevalo. Their families suffer from abuse, persecution, threats, and their food is stolen from them, and they're putting in jail. They even kill their pets. They are tortured. People are tortured until they are killed as measures of coercion against the detained. It's all been documented. But even the International Commission of Human Rights have tried to come into my country to observe this situation, and it's been denied. Nonetheless, we, the victims, will continue condemning these facts and demand truth, justice, and guarantees that it will stop. We created my organization, Justicia Encuentra un Perdón, for this reason. It's a human rights organization that documents and denounces these cases before the national and international courts. And we try to raise awareness in society and to generate historic memory. This is why I am still living, because I'm calling for justice so that no other mother will suffer the way I do now. I am aware and thankful of the support that the democratic world has committed to give to the fight for human rights, and that they put in their help for my country. But much remains to be done. And the choice of Venezuela, represented by the unconstitutional regime of Maduro, to join the Human Rights Council of the UN, even though the High Commissioner has recognized these abuses, means we must continue. I will conclude and ask that all the governments of the world working in different organizations should work so that all different forms of human rights protection be granted internationally, and that we shouldn't wait until it's too late. We must not just stand by and count the number of victims and write up reports under the promise that it will never happen again. We have to avoid them. I am imploring you, I, a victim. Thank you.